So, hello to everybody, and welcome to another Teacher Talk session. My name is Alejandro Paniagua. I came from the OECD. I'm a policy analyst, and my work revolves around pedagogies and innovation. So, I'm also a primary school teacher. I've been working as a teacher in Barcelona for 8 years, so I'm delighted to have the opportunity to be here and to moderate this session regarding social media and learning. Let me remind you the goals of the session. So the Teacher Talks is we are trying to have some comments and debates and reflections around emerging trends and emerging ideas in education, and to combine these ideas with the experience of experts and teachers in order to provide teachers with tools and approaches that can be useful for them to improve their approaches to learning in the classroom. This session is about social media, but I think it's important to highlight that it's also about how to implement ICT. It's also, I was saying, it's about social media, but I think it's a good example on how to implement technologies, ICT, and active learning in the classroom. So we have the previous one, Teacher Talking, was about ICTs. We have another one this morning about active learning. So I think this is a good opportunity to bring them all and use social media to discuss around clear examples of ICTs and active learning. So let me introduce my speakers briefly. So we have Koen Timmers. He's a Belgian educator with 17 years of experience in teaching web design. Koen is currently coordinating a blended learning project at the teacher training department of PXL College University. He received the Global Teacher Prize 2017 Top 50 and has been leading global educational projects focusing on providing education through social media across the globe. We have also Najla Al-Nakbi.
Yes.
She has more than 10 years of combined experience in academic and management educational environments. She is involved in all aspects of e-learning and distant learning projects in the Department of Education and Knowledge. Najla is a board member of eSafe, an NGO based in the Emirates for safer internet access for children, and she is a researcher currently focusing on the technology implementation and ADEC public schools. And finally, we have the participation of Derek Swanson. He is an ICT and STEAM education and learning leader at the American Community School of Abu Dhabi. Derek has a long experience on the development of and maintenance of technology in schools, and he also has worked for district departments to develop and implement different programs such as the Schwigert Internet Cafe. So, in my opinion, there are two powerful reasons of why social media is important for discuss, for teachers to address. The first one is because social media is here, and it's important. It's here, and it's going to stay with us, and it's important for our students, and it's my belief that whatever is important for our students is important for teachers. So social media has a strong importance in their lives, and it has a strong impact in the way they interact with each other, how students interact with each other within the class, outside the class, and more important, how students access to knowledge, the relationship between learning and knowledge. And since the use of social media has strong implications on the way students access knowledge, it has strong implications for us as teachers to be aware of the implications of this access to our teaching and our classroom designs. And which means that whether we want to use social media to improve our teaching or not, social media is out there and we have to address it.
Yes.
in the form also of skills, and it can be also a good example of to reflect on digital literacy. And the other powerful reason is that social media is transforming the way students learn and offers a channel to bridge formal and informal education, and also brings us as teachers the opportunity to work other content areas, other skills, that's 21st century skills, through social media. I think it can be a good resource for teachers to manage, to reflect on, in order to be more effective in our teaching. Yeah, I was forgetting. Yeah, so I would like to introduce the first question for the debate, and I will ask my speakers to describe what are the trends they are observing in using social media, and also their experiences in using social media. So I'm going to start with Cohen, and I want to ask you to connect the use of ICTs and social media to particular pedagogies, and to have a reflection on that.
Okay, so I think that many teachers are still used to instruct their students for most of the time. And I think that the teacher is a pedagogical engineer who need to shift sometimes to different approaches like learning by doing, flipped learning, collaborative learning, etc. And a very interesting new trend or new approach, part of collaborative learning, is connectivism. And in connectivism, students learn by connecting with each other, but also with experts. This may be on Twitter, LinkedIn. They can discuss in Facebook groups, closed Facebook groups. One need to make a distinction between open and closed social media. But they can also reflect using blogs. They can offer feedback by commenting on each other's posts, etc. And it's the teacher's role to point them in the right direction, instead of pouring knowledge into their heads. So I think that's one thing what is changing due to social media. Yeah.
I like to mention that I started by asking you the combination of ICTs and social media with pedagogical approaches, because we tend to talk about innovations as tiny, disconnected tools that we can use very descriptively. And I think, as I said at the beginning, to talk about social media is to talk about ICTs, it's about to talk about active learning, it's also about to talk about innovation and alternative methods. So I think it's very inspiring to have this reflection about how to combine social media with other innovative approaches. Following up with your reflect, I would like to ask Derek to reflect on his experience on.
Yeah. So it used to be that you would send a newsletter home on a weekly basis, and it would be a print newsletter that would go home with students. And now, with the advent of technology, information just moves at a much faster pace. The reason that I came to this session is to try and help promote the use of social media in helping to build community. And the technology is here to help build community. A lot of schools choose not to engage in social media, and if you choose to not engage with social media, then that community is built without the input of the school. And so I think that it's important for schools to engage with social media so they can help control and be committed to the vision that they have for their community and build that community with intent.
Thank you. And Anja, will you tell you about your passion of social media?
Yes, of course. Social media, as we said, is very important. And the issue that what we have to, we use always to prevent our kids. We tell them, okay, no, don't use when they come to the school, or not allowed to use social media, not allowed to use, because we always prevent them from all outside issues. However, our kids, most of our kids, and I'm sure all of you have some niece, some kids, daughter or sons, they have their own mobile, they have their own account in Instagram, they have their own account in Snapchat, they have their accounts in it. But however, how we can, if they are using it without teaching them the way how to use it effectively, how to use it correctly, this is the issue that we have to care about it. So really, we have to teach it. We have to bring it to our school because we need to motivate our kids to come to the school so that when they come to school, they will not feel that they are disconnected from the real life, what they are really used to it. And the second thing is we have to teach them the skills how to be a very good citizen, digital citizen in that. And if I can have the time to doing that now, talking about the IST standards.
I was going to ask you to do that because the next question is what kind of outcomes you might expect to.
Yes. So really, what we are expecting. Yesterday, Sheikh Abdullah, he said that most of our kids now they are learning. They are learning from outside the school, from social media, from YouTube, from Googling. So they are learning. But now, how we are bring it to our schools, how we really get it to our schools. Now the standard have been changed. Before we were thinking that the students should be a very creative thinking. They have to be a very good, in reading and writing and all of this. But now the standard of, especially I will talk about the ISTE standard for technology. The latest standard, 2016, there is 7 outcomes that we needed from our kids or from our learners. The first one is they should be empowered learners. But the meaning of empowered learner, that means they have to have the skills how to get information from different resources, how to use this information effectively, not only to consume it, it's only about how to consume it and produce knowledge. Also, they have to be a digital citizenship. How they will be a digital if they did not go to the online, and they have to learn the skills of digital citizenship, their right, their responsibility, the crime laws, they have to know about it, how to be a very good, when they have their, as we see, their online and social media, how they be a very good citizen that dealing with other strangers. Also how to be creative communicators. One of them, of this standard, to be a creative communicator. To be a creative communicator, they have to communicate with national, international, with other peers or maybe experts to learn and get feedback. So to learn how to be a communicator or digital communicator is really have a list of standard, substandard, and skills that they have to learn it. They have to be global collaborative. Now, a lot of projects that we are teaching them that they have to find a lot of experiences or projects or problems, and we need them to solve these problems. They have to not think about themselves and their peers. They have to learn about the same problem from different perspective, from their local, from international. These problems, if it is facing in different areas or in different countries, the same problem, how they will solve it together, so they can learn from their peer. And the easiest way to do it is through social media. They are learning a lot from Twitter, from other collaborative ways. So really, it's very important what we are really want from our learners to learn now in this generation. So this is I can add it.
Oh, thank you, Nadia, for your comprehensive response. I want to ask Cohen and Derek, from all these skills and these outcomes she just mentioned, I, for example, mentioned for me that the importance, the focus is in digital literacy, focusing on one of the aspect of this, of all the range of skills and content we might be working with using social media. Well, what do you focus on particularly?
Okay, so my favorite outcome is that students will see that their opinion matters. And I think we need to make a distinction between using your social media to learn from people we don't know and people we know in our own classroom. And I noticed that students really love to solve each other's questions, and especially the shy students. And that's a really great benefit, I think, because that offers a lot of more involvement into their lives, also when they come into a face-to-face environment. And a second outcome which was kind of unexpected when I introduced social media, is that I began to create videos and I posted them on YouTube, and my students were able to choose what they wanted to learn during some lessons. And what they did is they spontaneously began to create their own videos. And so we got in a situation or a new scenario in which my students began to learn from each other, and I even began to learn from my students. And that's some kind of taboo, because teachers don't want their students to know more about certain topics than they do. That's what drives them outside of their comfort zone. We don't want students who know more about coding than I do. And that's, I think, a huge reason why teachers choose not to use social media as well. Yeah.
Derek, will you follow up with this challenge of teachers being afraid of students that are well informed, that they might have different opinions, and they can counter-argument based on what they read in a blog or what they share through Facebook or?
Sure. I find that when students are able to engage with an authentic audience and build content that is actually being consumed by people outside of the school, I think that that's a really powerful moment. There was a student that made a video, and it ended up getting 200,000 views on YouTube. He built it out in one of my classes and posted it, and I haven't had a video that has 200,000 views yet. And so I was very impressed with his ability and his modesty in which he was able to do that. We've had people that have gone out on some picture sharing sites, and some of the pictures that they've taken really have taken off. And it's great to have that feedback from the larger community. And they're creating content that, I mean, it's beyond what I've created. And I'm okay with that. They really come and they show and they say, isn't this great? And it's a great opportunity for them to hear feedback not only from me, but from the larger community. And I think that that's a great thing. I think that at times social media does get a bad rap, and that students start to lose some of their aspirations with the, what happens is that adults start to reflect the fears they have of social media, and that might downplay the aspirations that the youth have. And I think that it's important to kind of keep away from that and encourage them to use the medium that they have chosen, the social media that they've chosen to engage with. And just following up with what was said earlier, that really helping students to be consumers of media and how they are producing content is essential. And we need to be able to shift the mindsets of the parents and staff and students to be able to accept social media as a norm. We need to be able to give the students the tool sets that they've already really selected, the Twitter or selecting Instagram or Snapchat. And really, once we've had the mindsets and the skill sets, we'll be able to build up their tool set and help them engage with media in a productive way.
Nadia, have you found teachers or parents or even politicians that are hesitant to try to focus on social media because of the dangers, because of this?
Yeah, we have a lot of some of parents, they don't want their kids to be involved in it, and they feel that okay, no, I don't want them. Either some teachers, they say no, let's protect them, we don't want to give them the feed. But when you come and talk to them and telling them, okay, but this is their life. They are now using it everywhere. They will use it in front of you or they will use it behind you. Why you don't let them use it with your knowledge and teach them the skills, how to use it effectively, how to, I will go with Derek what he said, that how to be, instead of just consuming data and consuming knowledge or information, why they don't gather information, also produce some content, and be proud of their, and this is proud of their work and their products they did it. And this is what we are working on. We want to have generation of, and this is what our also UAE leaders want. They want a generation of kids, or students, or learners who are not only consuming the knowledge. We want them to be really producing in knowledge. We want them to be really entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, they have to have some skills, especially now we are talking about e-commerce. So to have an e-commerce and to be a very good entrepreneur now in these days, you have to have a very good social media campaign, marketing and communication. So to get all of these skills, you have to learn from the school, and to make the schools very attractive for these students, very interesting for them to come to the school and be proactive and produce as much knowledge and content that they can.
Okay, thank you. We have focused on the skills and the learning opportunities that social media bring to the classroom. But I would like to focus now on the challenges, and in two particular challenges, a learning challenge and a social challenge. So let's start with the first one. So social media and the use of social media can reinforce some natural inclinations that we as humans we have. I don't know if you are familiar with what is called the backfire effect. The backfire effect, or the inclination to try to look for knowledge that reinforces our previous beliefs, and to look for these opinions that align our previous ones. So in that sense, so one well-known teaching principle is to start from what the students, the alternative conceptions and alternative ideas students have. But now with the use of social media, these alternative conceptions can be reinforced extremely. So I would like you to reflect and to have a small discussion around how to, not to prevent this, because it's natural, it can happen, it happened to me as well. I'm looking always for trying to reinforce my ideas, but how, from the perspective of a teacher in the classroom, how to try to counteract, or how to inform and to be a mentor in how to manage these kind of inclinations. So it's open for you to.
Well, I agree with you that people tend to follow people that they agree with, and it becomes this echo chamber kind of effect where it just is the same thing coming back to you. I find that when students become creators of media, that there are all sorts of critics coming from all sorts of areas, and suddenly students have to react to those criticisms or react to the comments that they're receiving on social media when they post publicly. The reaction to those comments does open up their mind to a variety of different ideas, and so moving away from consumerism and like the consumption of social media into the realm of developing it, I think that does help aid with the distancing of like a echo chamber where they're engaging with people not only from their own perspective, but people that have varying perspectives from their own.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It really is. I think teachers need to be open-minded, and they need to find maybe colleagues who want to offer feedback on their thinking and their opinions. And yeah, why not putting the students in a place where they can create the content and where they can generate the ideas, so the teacher becomes more like the facilitator and more trying to find the right path in that information. But it keeps being a struggle, it's a real struggle. Yeah.
Struggle, and also the cultural of the environment, how it is. I mean, most of them, they used to, as you said, they don't want to do, or they don't want to change. They want to teach as the way they teach. They don't want to have any contravention. But when they, if we have, and at the same time, we have very good teachers who are very inspiring, who are very creative, mashallah, and we have a lot of our local teachers, they are very inspiring in doing, using the social media, using other technology in it, but I will focus on social media. And then using it like they are using either Instagram or using the Twitter, and they know how to use it in a very effective way. I would love these teachers to highlight their work so that they will be like a role model, or at least for other teachers, especially in the schools. I mean, in the school we have variety of teachers. We have very creative teachers, and we have very teachers who would love to learn, but they don't know how to do it. And we have some teachers who really don't want to do anything. But the teachers who are really creative, and I saw a lot of very good teachers in that, they will be like the light, the champion, who can show their work. I mean, when you have a very good work using social media in your classroom, share it with others, share it with your colleagues, share it with all other, share the practice with other schools maybe. Give a lot of workshops, did you use it, what you face, because the teacher will learn from each other. Yeah. So that will be a very good idea to have.
Let me build on that for a second. So Derek Cohen, what do you think about, have you experienced this kind of collaboration? Did it help you to
Well, I think that there's, like each one of you is a gardener and you each have a garden, and a lot of teachers want to put a wall up around their garden and not let people in. They've heard that these people that come through and they destroy gardens, and it's just a fear that social media, when you open it yourself up to the world, you're going to be causing people to come trotting through your garden, and you only hear about the downsides, that all of these plants are going to be destroyed. But I think some teachers, they just need to hear that there's going to be a lot of compliments that come to you. And the real beauty of a garden doesn't happen when it's walled. It's beautiful because people know of it. They can see it, that they can experience it, and they can provide feedback and give ideas on how it can improve. So I think that teachers, they have this fear that produced through either their preconceived notions that, this is a bad thing to open yourself up to a larger community. But I would argue the opposite, that really it does allow you to blossom.
Yes,
And Cohen, your thoughts on?
Yeah, I second that thought. I think the magic happens when people start collaborating. And I think it's a real threat in the world that, world leaders are pushing their opinion to the people of their nation. So I think it's everywhere. Like, for instance, newspapers also. They have one opinion, and it's a real challenge to find another opinion. But I think collaboration is key. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But this, I just want to add this important. But this is, when you open social media, you as a teacher, you have to also well equipped with many skills that you have to have it. Because when you open social media, that means, as Derek said, it will be open for many people within nationally or even strangers that you don't know them. You will receive some bad comments or bad calls. You will receive some very compliments. So you have to equip yourself how to deal with these, and then when you equipped, you will take it to your kids. Your kids or your student will learn from you, will learn how to deal with all of these situations. So really, as a teacher, you cannot open until you really get all the workshops, or maybe you have to teach yourself how to deal with these kind of situations, so that you can even convey your skills to your kids or to your students. So this is very important for us.
Okay, thank you. Let me the last question before opening the room for the Q&A and for the poll question. So I mentioned one challenge. I want to mention another one. Sorry for that, but just to have your thoughts on that, and try to have a more open debate. So that's another consequence of using social media, is that it can have an impact on the dynamics of our students, and it can have a real impact in how we can improve our classroom management, or the conflicts between students, or what happens because one student posted something about another student, and this is two-sided, because one thing is how to address this kind of conflicts in the classroom, because if it affects the classroom dynamics and the relationships among our students, it affects the way we are doing our teaching. And the second one is a kind of ethical question, that are we allowed to try to go and enter into what we can consider the private lives of students or not? What are the limits of using social media to try to address conflicts between students and the classroom dynamics?
Yeah.
Derek, if you want to.
Well, I think there's, to address the first question, I think there's a kind of a picture that people put themselves out on social media, that they're living in a perfect life. And I think there's new tools that are coming out. Google has a new camera that clips on to your clothing and is going to be able to capture your everyday, and it's going to give more of a realistic picture of what your day is. And I think you're going to see that there's more of a realistic picture. You look at what Casey Neistat did. He built an app that it only worked when you put it up against your like a chest or something like that, so you could show what was really happening in your day. So I think that students that are heavily engaged with social media, I think the studies have shown that they're becoming a little bit more pessimistic about things. And if they are on the internet for over 6 hours a day, then they have a lower, they report a lower life satisfaction. So I think that that's going to be difficult to change, but with virtual reality coming out and with students be able to engage in a different way rather than in a static kind of written or picture form, they're going to be able to engage with people. That might be changing here in the next several months to years as the virtual reality becomes more of a reality. And to address the second part, where you're saying that the
how far we can try to address these kind of issues, because we are entering into the private life of students, and they can raise some ethical questions to try to know too much what is going on.
Sure. Social media allows for the extension of the school day. Instead of being in the 8 hours and saying that's when students learn, social media can happen any hour of the day, and that is really, it's difficult for schools to engage 24 hours a day with students. I think that borders on impossible, given the current resources. So it does come to a point where the school has to draw a line where they engage with social media with students and when cutoff times are, or what's the regulations, or how they're going to commit to their students. And it is a difficult thing to approach, like where do we have a personal line? If there's something that's going on in the weekend, does the school intervene, or is that more the domain of the parents? Hopefully you've built community to the point where the school and the community is really just one, and that the community would help influence what the perspective of the school might be.
Yeah, I'm working with, or I'm board member in the NGO called eSafe. eSafe, the mandate is really to talk about, to give a lot of workshops and raise the awareness for our kids, which is using the internet in a really safer way. We are not blocking the internet, but we are encouraging them to use it in a safe way. Now, we see that most of our kids, they use it. They use it regardless we will teach them or no, they are having their own account in social media, in all social media. So all their privacy, it may be in danger if we did not teach them how to really protect what are the procedure to really to deal with your what information should be considered as a private. You should not give it to anyone. What information should be, considered it is only family should know it. You don't have to put it in public. So in this we start with some campaign, and we did a lot of workshops for some of our schools. Especially we are teaching our kids. It's only we bring the kids, and we give them some of the scenarios, how it will be, the effect if you did like this, what really will happen, the sequences. When they learn it, they went to their parents, they went to their families, and they start to give them more, awareness about this. And this awareness really it's very important that we don't, even if we will close, it will be open. So we have to teach them the skills or how to prevent themselves from especially privacy information, how to deal with it. But it was very successful, and they are asking for it more, and how really we let the student, the teacher, and the parent to be all work together to support this.
Yeah, I second that. I think privacy is a real issue, and we have to teach our students not to share too much about privacy. But I think that in the future, privacy may change. Right now, Google knows nearly everything about you, sells these data to marketeers, and in the future, we may all have a Google Glass, and we may automatically know your name, where you live, and maybe that may change the perception as well.
Yeah.
Like my son is right now, he's 6 years old. When he is 30, maybe for him it's very normal to know everybody by name, having this glass. So that may change the perception of privacy. Yeah.
And I agree with what he's saying, that Cohen is saying, but that, the notion of privacy is something that we'll tell our grandchildren about in an antiquated way, that, I remember when I had privacy. I think that privacy is on the decline and is working its way to extinction.
Yeah. So thank you for your reflections. I'm gonna open the question for the audience to answer. Remember, you can answer the question using the app of the conference or going to the web page. So either way it works. So let me just read the The question is, thinking about your students, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? My students like to exchange solutions to problems with digital devices with others in the internet. A, strongly disagree or disagree. B, strongly agree or agree. What? Okay.
Double agree.
Double agree. So, you're gonna have some time to answer. We want to put the results at the end of the Q&A session. So I'm gonna now shift the focus on the audience. So now it's time for you to ask questions, raising your hand or sending questions to the, through the app. So there are 2 questions to begin.
Yes, thank you all for an interesting panel discussion thus far. I have a question for the panel. The way I see it, social media in class is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing, for example, on Friday there was a situation in my class, I'm a teacher, where the 2 boys had an argument and a fight, and thanks to social media, you know, even though I was in Abu Dhabi, I could solve it somehow. But then it's also somehow like a courtyard where a lot of things happen, and as a normal school we need to put surveillance on the courtyard. How do you see this in the world of social media? Do we need to put surveillance out there too? This is an ethical question, the way I see it. How do we check what's going on in social media with, are we allowed
How do we
to
check?
all the
Okay,
images?
get you.
So feel free to, do you want to answer, Naja?
I will get some and then if
Or-
later. Yeah, I do agree that the issue with social media is mostly that it is open for everyone. I mean, it's open and we cannot check what really our kids they are doing. So there is some prevention that you can try. It's always try to be, and one of my ideas that really you have to be close with your kids, with your student, how really they are using it, at least encourage them to share with you if they receive any bad or any interaction that they feel that something wrong is happening. So really it's very important to learn to know your kids and to know your student how they are using it, and if they face something how they are try to deal different, they are try to behave in different ways. So this is one idea to have it, but of course open it to all, and it's open. No one can, as you said, can see what they are interacting with strangers and what they are working. This is how we can tell them. It's really it's not only for the school. It's the school and the parent. They have to work together to see how they can prevent their kids and give them at least the skill to have it. So this is from my. Or sometimes you can use the closed social media. If you would love to add what closed social media.
Close it? Ooh. Yeah. I think that it comes to training like the core values in the student, and then when you really train like what they value and help shape what the community is at the school, the community is going to help to do that observation of what's going on in social media. So when you create a community as a school, if the school, like I had said before, if the school's not involved with the creation of their community, that's where you have issue. And the school needs to be able to help to shape what students see as the community and what parents see as the community and what community members outside of the school see as the community. And the community will help to do that patrolling. And I think that it takes a village to really bring kids up. And I think that digital media and social media really does help to become that village that reacts in so much faster of a way than what would have been 20 years ago.
Let me introduce a question that just came that I think is very interesting. So someone is asking, how can I use the social media platform in an effective way other than communication medium? Because maybe we put a lot of emphasis on the communication and access to knowledge, but in terms of working with other skills, let's say mathematics or let's say science, other ways that social media can help us to. It's a challenging one, but that's the reason I'm asking. Sorry.
Well, what worked for me is that you can learn about global issues like water and poverty, etc., from textbooks. But by connecting and using social media to connect students from around the world, you can create new ways of learning. The students will automatically be able to express themselves and to reflect, to offer feedback, and to explore and to connect, basically. And they will have first-hand information from each other. And that's what worked for me. Yeah.
And joining with experts, I mean, talking and collaborate with experts in the subject is very important. Working in a global problem that's happening so far, like any kind of global problem, that if you will have a topic, especially for example in Twitter, you can do a hashtag for this global problem, and then you can work and get feedback and experience from other peers around the world about this content, and you can get as much content and as much feedback to your problem, and then how to solve it, and so it is kind of, it's a way of communicating, but how you use it in these kind of ways. So this is an example also.
And I've had students that have engaged with, I teach mobile application design and development, and it's a little bit smaller community. And there was a student that was motivated and went and found this guy, Yank Bronos, and he was in Colorado at the Colorado School of Mines. And so he ended up exchanging Twitter messages with him, and he became interested in what we were doing in Abu Dhabi, and it helped us to get hooked in with Apple Education. We had him Skype us across, and we was able to bring him into our class in a way. So that's helping to address how you can access information using social media, is that it's a jump board into speaking with those people that do this for a living, like literally.
So let me ask you another question that just came, and then we want to show the results of the poll. So someone is asking, would you recommend any specific platform that we might not know, other than Facebook, or other than that can be suitable for educational purposes? Like, very briefly, so any other platform, educational platforms that you might think is particularly interesting to address these challenges we've been discussing today?
Well, I always start from a certain scenario or a certain need in my classroom. Then I try to connect a certain social media to that scenario. But, Derek?
Sure. I didn't want to jump in right away. I became an Edmodo ambassador, which is a classroom management software. It's similar to what Google Classroom is. And I like Google Classroom as well. But it's a way to have kind of a closed environment where it's still social. They can ask each other's questions, and you can also see what they're asking so that you can help intervene if there's misinformation. And so it does help to spread knowledge. It allows them to access the collective knowledge of what is going on in the class. So many of the questions that you would otherwise have to answer are being answered. So I think that depending, like Cohen said, I think it's applicable to solution. And honestly, you have to go where the kids are. The students are going to know what they're using, and asking them what they're using and seeing how they're using it will help you to figure out what you need to use and where you need to use it.
Yeah, they're very advanced. I mean, platforms are changing very, very clearly, very fast. So go and ask your student what they are using, and maybe you can use it for your to reach your objectives, of course.
Yeah, okay. I just want to add one.
Very briefly, please.
Yeah, okay. There's a very large Skype in the Classroom community, which connects students via Skype with experts. Like, you can talk with people who are exploring the North Pole. You can go to museums, etc. And I think there's a very rich environment, and that offers a lot of nice opportunities. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We want to show the results of the poll. Whoops. So we can see, that there's more than half of the people in the session that thinks that the students like to use, and they're using social media to solve problems. It reinforces our initial idea that social media is there, it's out there, and it's going to stay, whether we like it or not. And from what we heard today, to use social media in the classroom is challenging, it is. It's not easy to use it as a teacher, but we heard yesterday many times that good teachers are teachers that know how to learn new things and are good learners. So I think social media is going to be a good opportunity for teachers to learn new approaches. It's challenging, but it's there, and I think it's a good way, a good platform to try to become better teachers, and that's the overall purpose of our sessions here. So I would say thank you for the audience to be here. Thank you for our speakers for your insights on the topic, and we invite you to come to the next teacher talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much.